Hello, my name is Rickard, and today I want to show you my 10 favorite posters of 2023. Now, before we get started, I will give you kind of my criteria when I'm judging these designs, and this is also my criteria for judging any kind of design, and it's also the criteria I use when I'm doing my own designs to see whether they're a good design or not. And this is my two-axis scale. On one side, you have the idea. So how good is your idea? At the bottom of that, you have boring. So a boring idea would be a couple kissing on the cover of a romance novel, right? It's a very boring, expected, trite, cliche idea. Then you have a brilliant idea. Now, a brilliant idea is an idea that evokes a lot of emotion, is unexpected, surprises you, or cannot surprise you, but is so poignant in its relevancy or its simplicity. A great example of a brilliant idea was the book cover for Twilight, simply showing two hands holding an apple as the cover of a vampire romance novel was a brilliant idea because it evokes a sense of Adam and Eve, temptation, taking that first bite, even the blood redness of the apple. So many things going for that idea. Okay, next we have execution. So on the execution side, you have on one side it's amateur, meaning it's not professionally done. Things aren't properly cut out. They're not composited together. The quality of the photo is bad. Cropping is bad. Not using color harmony. So all the common mistakes that you can use by just not following design basics. And then on the other side, you have experts. So this is extremely good Photoshop quality, extremely good photography. A great example of this is Marvel posters. So a lot of the Marvel posters aren't that brilliant in terms of the idea, but their execution is really good. They have extremely high quality photography. They've got excellent Photoshop work, excellent use of colors and effects and overlays. So you get a poster that looks really good. So now in this scale, this kind of white zone here is your no-go zone. If your design falls into this area, you either need to execute better or you need a better idea. Next, you have the great design, which is this. And this is anything that's kind of past your, it's either expertly crafted with a bad idea, a boring idea, or it's a brilliant idea, whether it's crafted well or not. And obviously, you have kind of all this space. Now, here, where an idea is both brilliant and expertly crafted, that's where you're going to have your best designs. Now, pulling that off is kind of hard. If every design was this great, then they would all fall into this category and we'd have a new category here. So, for the 10 movie posters of 2023, I feel that they all kind of fall into this category. And I will mention whether I think the idea is really strong or whether I think the execution is strong or both. But for the top 10, most of them all kind of fall into this category. So now that you know my criteria, let's go through the posters. You're going to have to forgive, I have a little bit of a sore throat, so disregard my raspy voice. Okay, so first, let's go through my top 10. Now, this is in no particular order. These are just my top 10. When I try to figure out just one, I always kind of bog down. So rather than trying to explain which of these is best, I'm just going to give you my top 10. Okay, first poster is Oppenheimer. Um, Generally, Christopher Nolan movies have good posters. This one to me is one of the better ones. We've got a very iconic image that immediately communicates Oppenheimer. We've got the fedora hat and the suit. which somehow screams Oppenheimer. And then we've got the explosion happening in the background, kind of almost have him silhouetted against that explosion. Pretty much tells you everything you want to know about this movie, that it is explosive, that it's about one man in the midst of all this, that it is a very personal portrait or story. Also, the typography is very simple. There's no bevels, effects, drop shadows, or anything like that on them. Very simple, clean, really nice, well executed, just a beautiful poster. Okay, next, number two here is The Killer, and this is a David Fincher film. This is one that was kind of riding on the peripherals of this list. Now, painted posters don't often work, but somehow this one does. The limited colors, the strange pose with the gun directly pointed at camera is both mesmerizing and intriguing. Also, I think the color palette itself screams David Fincher. If you're familiar with his films like Seven, Panic Room, Fight Club, they all have that kind of very cyan color tone to them. Mindhunter on Netflix is another one. And to me, this image just screams David Fincher. So, really like that poster. Okay, the next one is Iron Claw. Just a brilliant, brilliant poster. Uh, Now this is a poster where we're using a single image to communicate the entire theme of the film. So we've got the light, the subtle light coming from the top, which is great. We've got the black field. So really it's communicating that this is a story about these people. They're isolated from the rest of the world. We do have the string in the background indicating that this is a about wrestling and they're all in a ring. We've also got the muscles which communicate the wrestling, even the subtle touches like the armbands, both of them holding a medal, the hair indicating that this takes place in the 70s, the wife beater. There's probably going to be some familial abuse in here. So many things happening with this single image, and really you can learn so much about the film with this image. Now, the typography is also pretty simple, pretty clean, kind of like a Trajan-esque font there. Nice, simple, great poster. Okay, next we have the Hunger Games Songbirds, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Now, this is one where the idea itself isn't the most brilliant. It's pretty straightforward. The two main characters back to back, but even in that simplicity, we do have a few things happening. The fact that they're back to back kind of throws a bit of confusion in terms of what their relationship is. We don't know if they're allies working together or if they're conflicting characters. So a lot of that plays into the pose, but beyond the pose itself, we also just have really brilliant execution. Now, I mentioned earlier that Marvel usually excels at execution, but in this case, I would say this is one of the better produced movie posters of the year. We've got a lot of 3D going on in all the surroundings. We've got a 3D songbird, a 3D golden snake. We've got the entire border being created in 3D. We've got 3D elements floating through the scene. Photoshop work is top notch. Lettering is top notch. Everything about this poster really well done. Okay, next, number 5. This is the Ferrari poster. Now, it's almost too simple, but it works and it works really well. There's a lot of ways this poster could have gone. Ferrari is an iconic brand. The color yellow is iconic for Ferrari. The logo itself, meaning the bucking black stallion, is very iconic. Even the shape of the Ferrari spider is super iconic. Could have gone with any of those, but here we decided instead to just feature the man, Ferrari, played by Adam Driver, in a single image with just a sweep of white and red. Just a very cool looking image that immediately sells. This is a personal story about struggle. I also love the font choice here. So this is one where a lesser designer would have opted for something a little more simple, maybe a little more common. But here, just with that R and the A, we get enough character to separate this from other films or other fonts, but at the same time, not drawing so much attention to itself that it's obnoxious. So, just a great poster design, very simple, but done very well. All right. The next poster on my list is Evil Dead Rise. Now, this is a poster that, just based on basic design rules, shouldn't work, but somehow it does. Now, I've often said about design rules that you should not violate basic design rules unless you know them really well, and breaking them is part and parcel of your message, meaning breaking that design rule should make your design better. It shouldn't be something that you have to justify. And in this case, this weird crop somehow makes this poster better. We've got, usually you would never crop something like right through the middle of the eye, but doing that is just intriguing. It pulls your eyes in. It's both creepy, intriguing, weird, and I just love it. It's a great poster. It pulls you in. It immediately grabs your interest and intrigues you and tells you that this is a very kind of scary, creepy film about a mother. So I really like this poster. I think it has a lot going for it. All right, next we have Cobweb. Now, this poster is one where the execution is just brilliant. As far as my scale goes, this one is really, really good on the expert level in terms of the execution. Got beautiful edge lighting, really nice kind of god rays coming in from the top. Also, just the room design, the wallpaper in the background, the way the mirror is, or sorry, the way the window is placed, just everything about the composition is really nice. We also have kind of the Virgin Mary holding Jesus pose, but then with the super creepy hand on top, and you don't see the female character. So, a lot of things that this does well to get your interest, pull you in, and make you intrigued by the poster art. So, really like this one. Okay, the next one is the cat person. Now, this is kind of a strange poster, very simplistic. We just have a very closely cropped, almost uncomfortably close crop of a man and a woman almost kissing. Now, I say almost because the almost is where this poster really shines. You get, just with this one image, you get a strong sense of the woman's discomfort, the man's over enthusiasm, the little bit of stubble on him. All these things kind of add up to inviting the viewer to contribute a lot to this image. It's almost like the Mona Lisa. The reason the Mona Lisa is so popular is because of that subtle smile and how much you project your own thoughts into what that subtle smile is. This is also one of those images where the subtlety of her open eye and her not open mouth, all these things kind of add up to an image that's intriguing and just pulls you in. So that is another one of my favorite posters of the year. Next one is Barbie. Now, Barbie, this is just kind of an instantly iconic image. It's one of these posters that you know is going to be famous in 20 years from now. People will still have this poster as kind of one that they'll be on shirts, they'll be used far beyond the movie itself. It is very simple. The idea is very simple, but it delivers on the things that it wants to deliver, which is Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie, two very beautiful people playing two dolls. And it delivers on that. It delivers nicely, and it uses the Barbie iconography to sell the image of the poster. So just overall a really good design, well done, simple idea, but well executed. All right, this next poster is Air. And this is just a brilliant idea. I don't even know if this is in the film, but the image tells a great story with a lot of built-in iconography. So you see the Nike swish hidden inside the painted part of the shoe. Obviously, you see the shoe itself. You can kind of see that this is taking place in the past because of the analog painting of the billboard. There's also just the fact that they're painting the billboard implies that this film is about marketing and about the formation of Nike, the formation of the Air Jordan. So it tells a lot with a single image in an intriguing way that pulls in your interest and also has you contributing to the image. So great poster. So those are my top 10, and again, I went through every poster, and there was a lot that were close to making the list but didn't. I'm going to run through those real quick, kind of give you my thoughts on them, what I really liked about them, and then maybe what are the things that didn't quite work for me or which held them from taking one of those top 10 spots. So, this is the poster for Thanksgiving. I really like the kind of iconic pose. Um, if you want to establish a new horror character or horror villain that you might want to turn into a franchise, it's important that it has particular things that make it stand out. So, Jason has the hockey mask, Mike Myers has the latex mask. The Leatherface has his chainsaw. And in this case, we've got a really cool looking axe and the pilgrim hat. And immediately that kind of gives you the vibe of the character. If this were to turn into a franchise, this poster would do well as its first one. All right, next we have The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Again, this is another one that uses a very similar style of just featuring the villain or the monster or the bad guy. Now, both of those, Thanksgiving and The Last Voyage, I really like the posters. I just felt like the Cobweb poster did it better. Okay, next we have the Black Ice. And to me, this was just a brilliant idea. It's a documentary about black hockey players and the way they communicate that with just a single hockey stick that's black next to a bunch of white ones. It's a very clever way of communicating the theme of the film. All right, next we have the Big George Foreman. This is, to me, is a great image. The problem is we've kind of seen it done before. It's somewhat similar to the Iron Claw poster, but the Iron Claw poster does a lot more with one image, and to me, it did it better. So that's the reason this one did not win out. Although I do love the poster image. Bomber Rush. This one uses a very similar tactic to the cat person image, and I really like it. It wasn't my top 10 contenders just because I feel like it's a great image, but I feel like the cat person did it better. All right, this is the Artifice Girl. To me, this is just a great design. The only problem with it is for a movie like this where you don't have kind of a draw of a big director or a big star, you have to give your audience a little more information, in my opinion. All right, this is the slide poster. I thought this was just a very clever, simple, brilliant idea. The one thing that didn't work for me is the slant of the shadow, and I understand why it's done so that there's room for the typography. But I just felt like the off-centeredness of it just doesn't work. Rebel Moon. This is a poster that's brilliantly executed. The idea is somewhat boring. We've seen it before in posters for Indiana Jones, Star Wars, and other kind of franchises like this. But as far as execution goes, it is very well done. Um, the illustrations are all excellently done. The framework, everything about it is really well done. This is the poster for Napoleon. This is, to be fair, I looked at all the Napoleon posters and I didn't find one that blew me away. And I wish there was one. It's such a grand film with so much great cinematography in it that I feel like it was kind of a missed opportunity. They should have had a much stronger poster. This is the poster from Megan, and I've seen a few posters who do this kind of blurry elements in the foreground. In fact, I'll show you another one a little later, but I thought this one did it really well. And if I were going to have 15 posters on my list, this would definitely be one of them. Okay, next we have Knock at the Cabin. Very simple, but I just love this poster. I think it was done really well. The color scheme is different than what you would expect from a horror film with like these nice bright yellows and greens. But I just really like the poster and I think it works really well. All right, next we have A Haunting in Venice. This one definitely has kind of that poltergeist, or sorry, The Exorcist kind of vibe to the poster with the silhouette, the single light on, and so forth. But I thought it did a pretty good job, and I like the blood trail on the water. I thought that was a nice touch, something we haven't really seen before. So very nice poster. This is the poster for Saw X, and kind of a brilliant idea. They creating the X with the two torture devices, and just the whole thing going toward the eye. If you've seen any Saw movie, you can kind of use your imagination to figure out what this contraption might do. And yeah, so I thought this was a pretty brilliant poster design. Okay, next we have Equalizer 3. This, in my opinion, this poster tried to do too much. We've got the analogy of him being justice. We've got the setting taking place in Italy or in a European country. We've even got the little foreign flag there. So it's trying to do a lot with one image. We also have the three being indicated by the window structure in the back. Overall, if this were like a book cover, I think it would do well. But as a movie poster, I feel like it was trying to accomplish too much. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. So pretty boring poster, but what it does really well is it captures the feeling of a 1970s uh, book directed at young women. And to me, in that sense, it is actually a brilliant movie poster in that it really captures that sense of a 1970s book. And because this is a movie inspired by a very popular book that came out in 1970, I think that was very intentional. Okay, next is alphas. I thought this was a very cool idea. I feel like it's something we've seen before, but just the Photoshop work is not great. The bubbles and the scale of the waves and so forth are just off, and you get that sense. So this is one where the idea is good, just the execution wasn't there. Okay, Scream. I love this idea of seeing Ghostface through a window in a subway because it immediately does communicate New York. When you think of subways in America, you immediately think of New York. Now, the only problem with it is it's an image that really wants to be centered and it's not centered. So, this is one where the execution kind of ruined a good idea. The idea was brilliant, but the execution detracted from it. Um, okay, next we have these John Wick, and some of these look good. Unfortunately, some of them to me look like someone just put a movie frame inside an AI generator and said, make this look a certain style, and it just doesn't look great. However, there is this one created with the Paris kind of city map, and I think that one is brilliantly done. I really like it. I don't think it works as a movie poster, but as kind of a collectible movie poster, it's kind of cool. Okay, next we have The Finest Kind. Now, not familiar with what this movie is, but I did think that this um, poster is a great example of this kind of blurry foreground element against a in focus background is done really well in this. Now, I would say that the one thing you have to be careful for when you do this kind of a poster is you have to add enough film grain to trick the mind into thinking that the blurriness is from the camera and not just from adding a Gaussian blur in Photoshop. Even though that's probably how this image was done, you want people to think it was done because of the lens focus. So for this image, my one gripe would be add more film grain to it. And also, I'm not a fan of the Finest Kind skewed typography. On a centered image like this, it just doesn't work. They should have kept the typography nice and straight. This is the Creed 3 movie poster. I really like it, but again, it's using a very similar formula to Iron Claw and Big George Foreman, but again, Iron Claw just did it better. This is the poster for The Creator. Now, this is a great image. The problem is it doesn't tell you anything about the film except that the film is set in the future. And that's the problem with this. It's one of those where it's like, it's a great image, but it doesn't sell me on watching the movie. This is Cocaine Bear. Just it's kind of a very clever image. It does look like a thumbnail for a Photoshop YouTube tutorial that I've probably seen 100 times, which is the only reason it didn't make my top 10. But I do think it's a very clever poster design. This is the poster for Chevalier, and to me, this is one where a different crop would have made all the difference in making this a better poster. The fact that I can see his legs and the fact that I can also see where the studio backdrop and floor meet just kind of ruins the illusion of the poster. I want to see him, but I don't want to see him in a studio. I want to see him in an environment or just in darkness. So to me, this slightly more cropped in so that we didn't see his feet and didn't see the ground would have made for a better poster. Finally, we've got this Quantumania poster. I thought it was a good idea, but as soon as I saw it, it looked extremely familiar to me, and I realized that it was because it reminded me of a poster for Inner Space, which was a movie that came out in, I think, in the 80s, where people are shrunk down. So it's got kind of a very similar vibe to it. Otherwise, I thought it was a pretty clever idea, even though obviously something that was already done with the Ant-Man poster. And then finally, we have Asteroid City. Uh, I thought this was a clever design, like execution wise, it's really good, but it just doesn't sell the movie to me. It more sells the aesthetic, which I guess if you're a fan of Wes Anderson, you're probably going to see the movie for the aesthetic more than the story. So there's that. And there you go. That is my top 10 posters for the year. Now, if you enjoyed this, I usually do Photoshop tutorials, so this is a little bit of different type of video. If you did enjoy this and would like to see more of these videos, go ahead and leave a comment. What other types of videos would you like to see? Otherwise, if you want to check out some of my Photoshop tutorials, you can see them here. Also, you can go to nucly.com where I sell Photoshop training and Photoshop tools so that you can become a better designer. So check that out, and I will see you next time.